Hello, good morning. We're from the University of Glasgow, and as they said, we're presenting on supporting a mindset shift to blended learning at the University of Glasgow. So my name's Gareth. I work in the Learning Innovation units at the University of Glasgow, and I'm a learning technology specialist. We've got a Menti that we're running for this session with a couple of questions. So if you'd like to join that, we've posted this in the chat as well. So introduction. So the University of Glasgow Singapore launched in 2011 in partnership with the Singapore Institute of Technology. It provides 5 BEng and BSc joint honours degree programs to students based in Singapore. In the year 24-25, UGS has moved to SIT's new Punggol campus. The new campus is designed to facilitate applied learning, active learning and blended learning with significantly less capacity for face-to-face teaching. With this transition, our teaching staff in Singapore were required to redesign their programs for blended delivery. SIT have adopted the flipped classroom pedagogy as their default model for blended learning. So students are introduced to online content asynchronously, while all of the applied learning is facilitated in live sessions, either online or on campus. SIT's approach is anchored in 3 different design approaches for blended learning in higher education, which were proposed by Harmony. So these are low, medium and high impact blend. A mindset shift is required from staff and students to realise flipped learning's full potential. So the goal of this project was to help encourage this mindset shift in the UGS teaching staff by providing them with guidance on designing for blended learning. I'm now going to pass over to my colleagues Jolly and Thomas.
Thanks, Gareth. Hello, everyone. I'm Jolly and I'm from University of Glasgow, Singapore. I'm leading this blended learning development task at University of Glasgow, Singapore. So from University of Glasgow side, Gareth and Thomas did a content analysis of existing teaching materials to see what could be repurposed and made more engaging for blended learning. They also developed a baseline template for Excite that was similar to University of Glasgow's Moodle template. On other side, at University of Glasgow, Singapore, I went through identifying training needs. The University of Glasgow, Singapore Learning and Teaching Scholarship Task Force surveyed their 22 staff members to understand their approach or requirements for redesigning their modules for blended learning. The findings from this survey would be crucial in designing the support plan. Key themes that resulted from the survey were that staff did not feel confident in their knowledge and skill in online content delivery, but that they were open to exploring new teaching methods and technologies and willing to dedicate time for training. After analysis of the staff survey, we have identified 6 types of training needs, which are upskilling in learning design, good practice for student engagement, good practice examples from colleagues who are practicing blended learning, upskilling in how to use digital tools for content creation, video recording and editing tool, and also good practice for maths equations. These needs are suggested to University of Glasgow, LISU, to come up with a support plan. From our comparison of the University of Glasgow and SIT blended learning approaches, we identified the need for upskilling University of Glasgow, Singapore on student engagement and building online communities. Now I will pass on my time to Thomas to talk about more in detail about the training. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Thomas McMaster. I'm a learning technology specialist at University of Glasgow. So SIT use Brightspace as opposed to Moodle. So we had to analyse their structures, processes and systems connected to Brightspace. For example, where to look for technical support, how to set up an account and other things like this. And these contacts were critical in making this project a success. We then needed to identify and build relationships with key stakeholders, such as project leads, the director, and different faculty members. Additionally, we had to understand the working culture, working hours, organisational structure, and meeting etiquette. We were lucky on this project that we had the team from UGS, Cindy, Jolly, Silong, and Idris. This project would not have succeeded without their support. Next slide. So, do you recognise any of these challenges? You'll notice that these are on the Menti, these questions. Now, these are 4 of the main challenges that we faced when we were doing this project. So, parents being critical of blended learning from a value for money perspective. Students had a negative reaction to the teacher as a facilitator in some cases, and this is because they didn't want the more scaffolded approach. They wanted information fed to them so they could pass their assignments. Group work as well, so students wanted to be placed in groups with people of equal ability level or with friends. And also there were a significant percentage of students who only engaged at assignment time and kind of just appeared for the exams at the end of the term. Next slide. So Glasgow deploys a local digitised version of the ABC Learning Design Framework, and it's called the Course Content Mapping Framework. And we use Microsoft Whiteboard and Microsoft Excel to achieve this. So the support plan required that UGS staff use course content mapping to redesign their courses for blended learning. So I'm just going to pass on to Gareth to talk about what we did.
Okay, so in designing our upskilling sessions for the staff, we were influenced by the definitions in the JISC Beyond Blend report and its approach to curriculum design. So we considered the 4 aspects of learning they identify: time, pace and timing, space and place, learning materials, and group roles and relationships. And the 4 modes of participation they identify, which are live online, live in place, asynchronous online, and asynchronous in place. So these 4 modes can be incorporated into the ABC Learning Design Framework, which, as Thomas said, we use at Glasgow. The challenge is achieving an effective mix of synchronous and asynchronous learning activities to support your learners achieve their goals. Due to the international partners involved in this project, the different time zones and locations, asynchronous online and live online were the primary modes of participation for our staff upskilling sessions and for project communication. So, for example, a practical workshop on ABC Learning Design worked best live online with group learning, and we used Zoom and breakout rooms for that type of session. Time and place also link with organisational and staffing requirements and needs. So, for example, it was a challenge to schedule live sessions at a time suitable for participants in Singapore and in the UK. Another example, a session on multimedia learning principles lent itself more to an asynchronous online video on demand with discussion forums. And so for those type of sessions, we use Kaltura and Anoto. Okay, so what were the kind of challenges we encountered? The first one was finding a week when all UGS staff would be available. We had support from UGS senior management here, who mandated that staff would attend during a non-teaching week. We had all the kind of normal challenges like unforeseen last-minute personnel changes. It's very time intensive to pre-record sessions. So for some of the webinars we were going to pre-record, we actually ended up delivering them live because it was actually quicker. Pre-recording can sometimes take ages because you're always trying to get it like perfect. But the main lesson was you need a really good team behind you. So this was a collective effort, and we had input from academic and digital development, student learning development, and academic staff with experience in blended learning. So after the online upskilling week, we sent out a feedback survey. We emphasised that responses would inform the next phase of the support plan. So to try and encourage a good response rate, you can see for both that asynchronous online and live online were the most useful sessions on designing and developing content and digital skills. You can see there's some quotes here from some of the participants. The quote there about the sessions could have been more aligned with the local context in Singapore. We took that feedback on board to feed into the design of the sessions for the next phase. So Thomas and I travelled to Singapore to deliver a week of live in place upskilling. Like I said, we used the feedback from phase 1 for the design of these sessions. It's important to note here that UGS senior management requested this trip, so we did a lot of analysis to plan the week so that UGS staff would get the most value from it and that the trip would be worthwhile. After the face-to-face training week, we also gave staff a feedback survey and we included the same questions to do a comparison. So we asked them on a Likert scale from fully disagree to fully agree, if they felt the session information was clear, if they felt able to contribute to discussion, and finally, if they felt able to participate in activities. So for each of these bar graphs, the top bar is live in place, the middle one is live online, and the bottom bar is asynchronous online. So you can see a pattern kind of emerging from going up with the opinion becoming more positive, but in general, feedback was quite positive overall. We also asked them about the course content mapping, and these two pie charts here, you can see that after the face-to-face training week, the results indicate that confidence in course content mapping had increased since phase 1. We also created a resource hub for staff, as training often delivers a lot of information quickly. So the resource hub allowed participants to revisit and reinforce what they'd learned. Okay, I'm now going to pass back to Thomas.
Thanks, Gareth. So in April 2024, we had the privilege of meeting our UGS colleagues in Singapore, as Gareth mentioned. Now, firstly, what I would say, it's important to recognise the environmental impact of international travel. So two of the main issues that were raised during the online sessions were the lack of local context and the desire for more practical sessions. And this trip allowed us to tackle these feedback points. When we arrived at each campus, staff had informal conversations, worked together and had lunch as a team. Importantly, we'd already established relationships with the staff, but some of the key elements were removed when meeting online. So as you can see, we had time to build relationships with staff in a way that wasn't possible online. When delivering sessions, as you can see in the middle picture here, Gareth and I had the opportunity to establish a classroom presence, enabling staff to work at their own pace through the materials, and we could provide one-to-one support. And because everyone was working together, some colleagues with more advanced skills could help out as well. This was an opportunity to experience a different mode of participation and get a sense of engagement levels in a face-to-face setting, and staff were very appreciative of our commitment to supporting them. Another point is that we could commit an entire day to working with colleagues from each faculty and dedicate time to work with staff one-to-one. From our experience, we would argue that there is definitely a place for live face-to-face participation. Next slide. So University of Glasgow and University of Glasgow Singapore learned a lot during this project, and here is a summary from one of our UGS colleagues' experience during this project. So you're going to hear from Yong Min.
Hello everyone, my name is Kim Yong Min and one of the faculty members at the University of Glasgow, Singapore. Our journey transforming traditional lectures into a blended learning has been exciting. We recognize the importance of this shift for effectively cultivating our students' skills. However, transitioning to blended learning was initially challenging for us. Fortunately, the UOG Learning Innovation Support Unit provided invaluable guidance. We participated in a week-long blended learning workshops to equip the fundamentals of these new approaches. Following this, Dr. Gareth and Thomas offered continuous support, helping us on course content mapping and assessment design. Their team even visited us in Singapore, providing hands-on training in online platform utilization and video recording. Now, as we continue developing our blended learning modules, I feel confident that we are on the right track. I'm deeply grateful for supporting from the UOG team, and I will look forward to continuing this journey together to ensure a successful transition to blended learning at University of Glasgow, Singapore. Thank you.
So, as per feedback, some sessions covered the theory and principles, but did not consider their course's cohort, their learning needs, and the Singapore student profile, as their education system is different. This became a dominant topic of conversation throughout this project. For example, notional learning hours being different at University of Glasgow, Singapore. One of the other challenges we had was around accessible online maths. So this came in the redesign and development of engineering modules to ensure that online maths learning was accessible. There was a lot of work involved in training staff to produce this accessible maths module. So some of the challenges here included developing an effective workflow and even learning technologists having to sharpen their own skills on developing accessible maths on an unfamiliar platform like Brightspace, which we had to upskill ourselves on. I'm just going to go on to the conclusion now. So we're going to just quickly go over the project benefits and impact. So the project benefits and impact fall into three main categories. We've got staff development, which was achieved through upskilling using different modes of participation. There was also the educational quality, as staff have increased confidence in delivering blended and online courses. Additionally, the resource hub and buddying system have enabled staff to continue their development. Collaboration and knowledge exchange was also a great benefit to all parties involved in the project and will continue to bring opportunities for future collaboration. A major benefit to the university more broadly is that we've learned loads on this project, and this will help with the new sustainable content design framework for online and blended courses at the University of Glasgow. Next slide. So stage 3 of the support plan is ongoing. We're doing light touch support and we've got an ongoing consultation. University of Glasgow Singapore have developed a buddying system, so staff who have already redesigned their course can help staff prepare for 2025 if they have not redesigned their course. University of Glasgow Singapore Resource Hub was built in SharePoint, so that is something that's ongoing and regularly being developed. University of Glasgow Singapore have also created a quality criteria and guidelines, and this includes a checklist for blended learning course development. So we're interested in evaluating the effectiveness of UGS Resource Hub for supporting UGS staff as the first line support that we provide is reduced. So we focused on staff as learners, but the project team has also begun to research the student learning experience in the move from blended teaching and learning at UGS. A paper has already been published by Della et al., who report on a pilot study to evaluate student engagement and learner satisfaction in a flipped learning engineering mechanics module with 180 first-year undergraduate students, and there will be opportunities for further collaborative research. Okay, thank you for listening.